I'm going to look at how masculinity is constructed and transformed in Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines, with reference to Barbara J. Black and Bradley Dean as key critical sources. My aim is to show how different constructions of masculinity are created within the text, and also how there's a transformative moment in the construction of these masculinities, from the gentleman to a savage. So the three key characters to look at are Sir Henry Curtis, the upper-class knight, Alan Quatermain, the hunter, and Captain Good as the naval officer. So what these three characters demonstrate are a microcosm of clubland. Black defines clubland as an elite of ruling class males consolidating power among men and as a flagship of English high capitalism. Clubland becomes an area where men can go and identify with each other about their anxieties about gender, sexuality and class, which at the moment are creating a crisis in masculinity. By banding together in these clubs with these anxieties, they are able to create again their own masculinity out of this. This masculinity then is of the gentleman. The gentleman is described as an upper class, wealthy, well-educated man who identifies with others of a similar class and prestige. Clubland operates under the dynamic of it takes one to know one, and he's also described as a place charged full of secrets. So from this we can see the characters within the text identify with each other because of these qualities. They all band together under the idea of the search for Solomon's mines and the secret of what that holds, especially about the disappearance of Sir Henry's brother. Black comments that this secrecy is transformed into a sign of the closet, so therefore the characters now are identifying themselves as gentlemen together, especially Quatermain. He struggles with the idea of what a gentleman is, but he still says that he was born a gentleman. This idea of clubland can be extended when looking at Good as the epitome of the dandy. So the dandy is described as a leisure class, an aristocratic ethos. So what this means is that these are men that are very leisurely, high fashion, they're very concerned with their appearance. Their concerns are mainly about being well dressed and fashionable. We can see this in Good when it says that he had thoroughly shaken out his trousers, coat and waistcoat and was now folding them neatly until he was ready to put them on again. Now this is a time where they're in the middle of the jungle just pursuing their quest into Solomon's mine. So we can see he's very preoccupied with the idea that he needs to be well dressed. He's also very preoccupied with shaving and making sure that he looks good and that he looks presentable at all times. His trousers become a symbol for this idea of the gentleman, of the London homeland and of being in part of one of these clubs. But what we see is that they exemplify a clubland on an imperial setting, and that takes it into a different context. We can see that his attachment for his trousers is something that shows that he really wants to retain these ideals, but we can also see that Dean says the search for imperial masculinity as a transformative encounter between the modern and the primitive. We see that on this imperial plane, the men in question can't retain completely their clubland ideals because it's an imperial setting, it's a different world, and these things just aren't going to work in that area. Good goes from being described as stout, dark and fashionable, but then once he moves into the jungle, and especially with the pursuit of battle with Umbopa, he's described to wearing a mail shirt tucked into his corduroy trousers, and he's about to enter battle. He's said to look more remarkable than imposing. So what we see that even from moving into this imperial setting, that they have a transformation and an identification with the savage, especially Henry, who's described as a Dane. He's described as wearing feathers and a leopard throw. So we see that they go from identifying themselves as gentlemen to this idea that they are strong savages. They become honorary savages by the end of the text because Umbopa sees them as part of his own tribe. Through this transformation from gentleman to savage, we see how different masculinities can be constructed in different landscapes. So they go from being gentlemen in London to being savages in the jungle. So we see that the men in question have to create a new masculinity in order to go along with a new imperial masculinity that they are a part of. So we see a transformation from a gentleman masculinity to this new masculinity. And this is a savage masculinity. It's one that they have to create in order to be part of the tribe and to be respected by other people. So what I'd like to call this is the savage gentleman, because I feel that the different masculinities are constructed because of the different areas they're in. But I don't think that one superimposes the other. I think that the men, especially good, create this new hybrid masculinity of the two. So we can see that Dean says atavism becomes a sign of strength rather than of weakness, and that this relapse into barbarianism often offers us an empowering fantasy, and that is what entirely happens. The characters, by creating this hybrid masculinity, are able to have all the benefits of being gentlemen in a clubland setting, but also being a savage on an imperial plane. Black and Dean allow us to see how this metamorphosis happens and the emergence of this new hybrid masculinity within the text.